Really silent now. Excellent. Hello to everyone out there in internet land. This is the AGM for the ATA EV group here in Melbourne. Of course, we'll be having our speaker later, which I'll introduce later. But we need just a little bit of business to get through at the moment. So first off, just to find out about any previous events over the last month that anyone's been to, EV related, that they would like to share. Yes.
And just on the weekend at Riccardo, the RACV
yes.
breakthrough was unfortunately the weather wasn't the greatest, but the Society of Automotive Engineers had all the drive day, which was the last minute thing for all the EV battery electric vehicles. So the public got to drive a 3-kilometre route around Melbourne.
Oh, nice.
So no, that was a lot of interest, a lot of concern about if I put this vehicle through a car wash, am I going to get electrocuted? If I drive in the pub, so just some of the bizarre things that people think. No, it's good.
Excellent. So yeah, the RACV Energy Breakthrough. For those that don't know, it's kids on bikes and other velomobiles racing around a track for 24 hours. Some just human powered, some hybrid, some pure electric. So it's a great event that we encourage, and certainly getting the understanding of electric vehicles out into the general public. Any more previous events? Wasn't there?
Science Works was on.
That's right.
The Model Solar Challenge was on this weekend.
Oh yes. And how did that go?
Excellent. The Sunday was a perfect day.
Mm-hmm.
So where was that?
Science Works.
How Science Works was it?
Yeah.
Is that what they used to hold at Oxhill School?
Yeah, long ago, I think. Yes, long ago. But this was the national final.
Oh, wicked! If there's any links or anything to that that you could post up to the to our Facebook page, I just want to keep popularising these things for those that know of a thing called the interwebs. Here's our Facebook page, the ATA Melbourne EV branch, which is an open group, so anyone can post stuff. No problem. Anything you see of interest to EV or got any questions or queries, just hit that site and you can communicate with all the other members and the committee members and put stuff out there into the ether and see what happens.
I noticed the URL changed too, didn't it? Just recently.
Did it?
Yeah. All my links were broken. I thought it was gone.
Oh, right. Oh, I didn't know that.
You just have to add community dot at the start.
Yeah.
It's changed.
Oh. Oh well. Okay. Any more upcoming events that we know of?
There's the SAE comp in a couple of weeks down at Werribee, which we're hopeful to have a bit of a gathering for our Christmas breakup down there. If anyone's keen to attend.
13th through 13th.
Yeah.
So which day are you planning to break up for?
Well, I haven't had any feedback on that after sort of putting it out through the Facebook community initially, but it seems as though Saturday might be preferable, where there's a lot of the short track racing, from what I semi-understand.
Just say the Sunday is the main race day.
It's the endurance main race day, yeah. So, so that would be preferable, do you think, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some people prefer the Saturday because that's the acceleration event, and that's where they hope the electric vehicles are going to do that.
So electric race against petrol?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, who wants to be there for that?
That happens on both days.
Okay.
It's just that might be the day where electric's got the best chance.
Okay.
No guarantees though.
Right.
Yeah.
Thoughts. Yeah, so I mean, for those attending or who would like to attend, can we maybe just have a show of hands? Which would Sunday suit? Who would prefer Sunday?
4, 5.
6.
7?
And do we prefer a Saturday event?
Gee, that's close.
Like, okay, so, all right, Sunday it is. All right, so I'll put the wheels in motion for that event, and we'll do something sort of. I suppose what timing? Would it be an all-day thing, or can we sort of meet there at lunchtime? Or?
Oh, meeting time like it's an all-day thing.
Okay.
When does it start?
Around about 9 or 10 in the morning.
We'll kick off at 9 AM, so I'll be judging.
Oh, will you?
Yeah. So, a few of us.
So I'll make sure I wear a good frock then.
No team colours. Basically, yeah, it's good to get in as early as you can because you get to see the teams that have had to scramble, had to do something a bit interesting. It is a student event, so the most exciting things aren't always on track.
Yeah.
Struggle to get in there and the stories accordingly. So get in as early as you can, have a chat.
Cool. All right, we'll set it up from the start of the day. I personally won't be there till lunchtime, but and whoever can come whenever, I would guess. But we'll try and arrange a space to meet.
So that'll be Sunday, December the 15th?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so for all those in internet land, December 15th, this is Sunday, the SAE event in Werribee will be the place where we'll have a Christmas break-up and get together. So please join us, come out from internet land and join us in the real space. Okay, any talk about stuff around the garages? Anyone got anything they're tinkering on in their garage that's they'd like to tell us about? Oh,
I think we've solved our leak.
oh, great.
Paul came up with the idea of a power diode. So,
So no more flat batteries.
yeah, we have a Schottky power
He
diode.
had a flat battery on his Ice Age car tonight.
That diode. So we put that on there, and so far so good. The 12 volt is keeping its charge.
Brilliant.
So there you go.
Paul, our battery guru, has come to the fore again.
Another
Well
bit
done.
we've got a brain to pass.
Well done, EVs, EV heads. All right, so any other stuff around the garages? No, a bit quiet in the garages. Everyone's been down the beach, not in the workshop. Very good. Yes, that's the bit I'm about to get to. Stuff for sale, stuff for hire, and other stuff to report. And this is where Bryce comes to the fore.
In our little tool hire shop, we have the small crimper for small ones, high voltage stuff for small currents. We also have a larger crimper, which is my own one, but also hire out money to the EV group as well, for lower voltage, higher current type stuff, 240 square mils, 160. For those of you who wish to buy their own, my best side of the century.
Show that to the internet. Yeah.
Hello, internet people. Here we go. Here's your crimpers. Come and get them. If you're doing high current, this is the tool to use.
For those of you who do the automotive crimps and get tired of using cheap nasty things, crimps fall off, we can provide through. You can buy these $68 each or $130 a pair of strippers for one-handed operation. I have a pair of those, still using them. They're about 23 years old, still going, so quite a plastic. And a pair of good quality automotive double crimp crimpers that actually do the red, blue, yellow lugs and actually do the proper double crimp for the insulation and the metal. As discussed in the talk I did ago.
Wicked. Also, internet people again, strippers, crimpers. This is the dog's bollocks. This is the bee's knees. If you're doing the work, this is what you need to use. Okay, Bryce through the EV group, spot on.
Next one, sales of EV number plate stickers for as mandated by big roads for identifying an EV, like a hybrid car or a LPG car. These reflective steel stick with EV in 25mm letters. I had the batch made up, selling them for $10 a set. That's it. $10 stick a pair, and proceeds to EV group again. That's all I can think of for the moment.
Okay.
Commercial cars, or would you have to put it on your site?
Unfortunately, big roads who say you must have these EV number plate stickers, and I'll give you hybrid ones or LPG or whatever else, don't get these. don't provide these, you have to provide them yourself.
I just ordered an assembly this weekend, but I'm not sure if I buy it.
My guess is that won't come with the stickers.
So it's not legal to drive without.
Technically it isn't, but Riccardo, since I don't supply them, doesn't seem to be particularly pushy. Complaining about it. So as part of the EV group, I thought it would be smart if we actually sell these.
Yeah, wear the badge, wear it proudly.
Yeah.
Put them all over your car. Yeah, I'd say buy 50 or 60. Put them on there like polka dots.
They probably can't put them all over other cars and things. They need to be on that.
Oh, wicked. All right. Oh, yes. One more thing.
We have, since we're affiliated with the ATA, the Alternative Technology Association, who do publish Renew magazine and Sanctuary magazine, we've got a bunch of back issues here. We'd be happy to take a gold coin donation for the group if anyone would like any of these back issues. Fantastic reading. Sanctuaries, particularly for sort of home architectural interests, whereas Renew is more the hobby sort of angle. So feel free to come and have a browse later on and throw some money in the tin if you'd like to take any home.
That reminds me, one more thing. I've just written an article for the next review about to come out on EV charging. It's demystifying or EV charging is, I think, it's on different aspects.
Where's that, Bryce?
It'll be in Renew, the next December issue.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
So for everyone there in internet land, December issue of Renew will have an article in it by Bryce, who knows lots about EVs and will be talking about, or has written about EV charging. So very good and very well linked into tonight's topic. Right, might just get down to my convener's report now. I think we've covered all the other. Oh,
Oh, yes.
the other things are just on some the things we've got going here is that got a little list that we're going to pass around, and this is a chance for you to be able to put down the sort of topics that you might like to either speak on yourself or have someone speak on next year. So a chance for us to be able to get a little bit of a feedback from general members on what sort of topics will pique your interest. So if you're a bit of a tech head and you want to share your knowledge, or if you're lacking a little bit of knowledge and you want to get clued up, then please, I'll pass that round now and just jot down what you'd like to speak on.
What's the date on that?
On this?
On the board there. No, in your hands.
Just saying that this is the Electric Vehicle Expo, which is on Sunday, February 23rd. So
I misread.
that's okay.
I think this is either in relation to the Expo talks or at any of our monthly seminars as well. I think we can collect ideas for both. So yeah, feel free to do either. The other one's specifically for the Expo.
Yeah, as you might know, February 23rd, this group is running our Electric Vehicle Expo. We did one last year. It was hell fun, big success. So we're going to do it again. But what we do need is we need hands on deck. We need people on site, especially on the day and on the day leading up to it, and any help that you can give in organising beforehand. We have a committee of about 6 people that are doing the organising for the EV Expo. We meet around about once a month. So please put yourself down here if you're available on the day for the Expo or day before. You can spare some time because in order for the event to be a success, we do need quite a few volunteers on the day. There's a core group, like I was saying, who are doing a lot of the legwork beforehand, so that the structure's all set up and so everything works smoothly. But we need volleys, and all of you here, I'm hoping to see you on the day with one of our EV group T-shirts on, smiling and greeting the general public with joy, happiness, and a spark. Fantastic. Right.
And for those interested, we've got a draft of the poster that we used for the event, so feel free to come have a look at that and give us any feedback on that poster. At the moment, the car that's shown on the poster may be open to being changed to a car that's definitely going to be at the event, but other than that, it's likely to remain fairly much the same.
Yeah, so feedback on that. If you want to completely redesign the whole thing from start, then I think hopefully you're good at Photoshop and can present something. But if it's about tweaking this one, then give us all the feedback and we'll make changes to suit. Okie dokie. All right. Well, on to the convener's report, which is me, with a chance for me to be able to speak more. Fantastic, and hopefully you guys will listen and not fall asleep. This is just about a report about the last year of this EV group. I think it's been a time of change, not only change within the EV group, but also a change in the EV community and in the acceptance of EVs generally in wider society. So some of the things that I think we've been that it's been pretty good that's happened so far this year is that we've been able to develop stronger links with the ATA and on the expo that we did last year and other things that the ATA have been most accommodating, have really asked how can we help, and they've been really good. The main office has been fantastic. So big thanks to Doug and to Donna. Doug himself is a member of the Geelong EV branch and has done an EV conversion himself. So he's certainly elbow deep in the community and in the EV movement. Also, the other things that we've done is we've started to embrace the digital. So that's what all this is up here about. It's about getting a better web presence. Physical presence, face-to-face, is always number one, paramount of importance. But of course, we need to use the web, use all the tools that are available, use all the technology we have available in order to be able to push society towards a more rational form of transportation. So here we've got a live site now of Melbourne EVExpo.com.au, which you can go to. We also have a presence on the ata.org.au website, and then on FaceCrack, as I like to call it. We've got, of course, the open group, and now we've got an event page, Melbourne Electric Vehicle Expo 2014. So ask that you put those websites into your head and visit them, share them around. So this is one way that we can get publicity of the electric vehicle movement, of the seminars, of the expo, and everything that we work towards more generally out into the internet world, and help to grow the movement as fast as we can using all the tools we have at our disposal.
How do people get onto this webcast?
Onto the webcast? That's through Google+. Adrian, please.
There's two ways you can get involved. If you tee it up with us beforehand, we can have you come in live, and you'll be able to chat, and we'll be able to bring up on the screens, for instance. If you just want to watch along, it's available live on YouTube at the group's YouTube channel, which I've managed to have a link for on the board. It's youtube.com/user/ATA Melbourne EV Group. Should be.
Yeah, the ATA website's just changing at the moment to a new community site, so it may not be appearing. It probably is still on our group page, though, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, there's another way to get into any of the seminars that you've missed that you'd like to hear, or some that you'd like to hear again, or if you just like to see me on camera, and then fantastic. The other things that I think have been really good has been our successful expo last year. What was reported from a lot of store holders was an increase in sales. People were making sales on the day, which is good. That means that those that were involved had a commercial benefit from it. There was also increased public exposure to EVs in 2-, 3-, and 4-wheel varieties. And 1-wheel variety as well, very true. Also a lot of test riding of e-bikes, and I really think that really switched a lot of people on to like going, hey, actually, this is not just like riding around on a gopher, this is actually quite fun, and I want one. There was some quite a few informative talks that were given on more general and on more technical topics, and I thank all the speakers that were involved there. And also, I think that that it was a really good basis for making events in the future, including the upcoming EV Expo. And plus, on top of it all, we actually made a modest profit. So I'll be holidaying in South America this year. No, not quite that much. I'll be holidaying at home, but the EV group did actually come out with slightly more on the coffers than we went in, which is a good sign, and hopefully we can do that with the next expo as long as we get lots of volleys. Fantastic. Also want to thank the great variety of speakers that we had over the last year, and also some of the films that were sourced that were shown that were both entertaining and informative. Now, in a general sense, what I'm noticing about EV community is that we've got EVs are now starting to break into the mainstream. I think the Mitsubishi i-MiEV being so cheap is probably you know, it's the one that's breaking through the price point barrier first. Well, I've heard 22. So 27 to 28 is common, and I have heard of one at 22. So I think that this is part of a movement of EVs coming down in price and hopefully volumes of sales going up. So also for those that might not know is that in September in Norway, the highest selling car in Norway in September was a Tesla. That's not the high-selling electric car. That's the high-selling car, full stop, which is amazing. That's now Norway. You know, electric cars are mainstream now in Norway. So that's quite an amazing turnaround. And also, all major bike manufacturers now have either got an e-bike or have plans to have an e-bike out in the market. Now, this is a great turnaround. If you 5 years ago, you wouldn't have seen this, and now it's de rigueur. So, you know, groups like this and you know, our individual and collective actions have helped to bring about this, and I think, you know, we should be applauded for it. As far as the focus of the group goes, we still want to focus on car conversions, as that's where the group started from the gritty, raw beginnings of people going, I can't get what I want, I'm going to have to build it. And for those people that have pioneered on that, people like Bryce, for example, and Mario, like, full points to you, fantastic work. These are the people who are real pioneers. These are the Edmondson and the Scott of the Antarctic of the EV world, who pushed out there and created something that wasn't around before. And people go, wow, and it works, amazing. And you know, some of them may be a little bit rough and ready in the beginning, but they're getting slicker and better. And for all those people who are hands-on doing EV conversions, like this group and me personally, I thank you for your efforts. But times are changing now, as I was saying, that the cars EVs are getting cheaper and cheaper, and so this is means that now they're becoming more affordable. we want to move towards bringing the benefits of EVs to the attention of the general public as well. So this still keeps in line with our mission statement of getting more EVs on the road, but it means that we've got a new direction now that we can follow, and that's getting that new direction in getting councils and governments and state and federal governments to fully embrace the EV revolution and see it as something that's important, inevitable, and something that needs to be encouraged. So, so not only is it, we'll be looking at the technical aspects of putting an electric vehicle together from the start, but also to be able to get more EVs into more garages, onto the streets, and they used to be more common than it is at the moment. There's some people I'd like to thank as well, who've been part of the committee, the EV Expo organising team, and also have just been really good value for the group in general. I'd like to start with this is in no particular order. I'd just like to start with Mario, who's been great with finances. He hasn't embezzled any money that we've noticed, and also for his undying optimism and for the fact that he's put a really sick EV together, and now that his 12-volt battery doesn't go flat, hopefully we'll see it around a little bit more. Also to a deadly duo in Reese and Bryce, who together have been tech heads of the techiest order, who, if you don't know anything about how to put a EV conversion together, then there's two people that really know their shit and have made it, broke it, fixed it, and improved it. So, and of course, Bryce as well, his involvement in the EV Expo, he was instrumental in that, and has been a stalwart on the committee. Someone new to the committee group, Paul, who has been putting some speakers together. He's the person now who compiles listed speakers and gets them ready and pumped up and put in front of this podium to speak. And so, if you have any more ideas on speakers or on ways that speakers can be reached or whatever, then please definitely hit Paul up. Also, I'd also like to thank Rebecca, who's the current secretary, and she does everything that happens behind the scenes and quite a few things that happen in front of the scenes. I'm going to say that over the last 12 months, she's been the driving force in this group, and her efforts need to be commended. Someone got her up the duff now, so she's going to relinquish her position as secretary in order to bring up a little pup. So we'll be looking for someone at least half as dedicated to take on the role that she has been doing for last year. Also, I'd like to thank Felix. Where are you? Oh, there he is back there, Felix, for being Mr. Positive, being part of the committee, and just being good value, always positive vibe merchant, and not only that, but his involvement in all levels is something that I've appreciated. Adrian down here, he's at AV Tech, so the fact that there's a camera here, that there's the YouTube, that there's the Google Plus live broadcast, all that sort of stuff. That's all Adrian's sterling work. All that and studying and living on 3/5 of fuck all, as most students do. So, oh well. Yeah, big thanks to Adrian, because that technical knowledge is invaluable, and it just makes our reach much broader. Also, Justin, who I don't think is here, he was organising the speakers earlier in the year, but again, procreation has sadly taken him away from us. And also Michael, who has been the person who has organised tea and biscuits and prepped the social space of these meetings, these seminars, and has done a really good job. It's been absolute joy and self-motivated, and you've done a wicked job on that front. And now we're getting Tim Tams as well. Everyone's over the moon. So also thanks to all the speakers. And also I want to thank all of you as well. I want to thank members, attendees, the tinkerers, the tech heads, the visionaries, the innovators, and the sharers of all things moving and electric. That's all of you. Every time you talk about electric vehicles, every time you share a link, every time you post on a page about EVs, you're helping to broaden and expand the movement. It's that sort of communication that we can spread out there that helps expand the movement and brings us out from the fringe into the mainstream where we rightfully belong. So I want to thank you all for your efforts in the past, for your efforts today, and for your efforts in, going on into the future. Just shortly now, some ideas for the coming 12 months. Of course, Expo. So February 23rd, lock it in, put your name down on that sheet, and we'll be really excited, and it should be lots of fun. We'll also next year we'll have more speakers on technical aspects of conversions of charging and all the other things that we do. Also there'll be we'll have some general information sessions held in different council areas on the benefits of electric transport, a way to be able to reach more into the general public, to give them a little sort of a 101 lesson on electric vehicles. So from those that have only seen them on TV, to be able to put their hands on them, to actually have a chance to hear some of the issues about EVs being debunked. Also, hopefully we'll have some more social gatherings in the future, so that we can do a bit more bonding with each other, like not the sort of no more nails sort of bonding, just on the heart level. Maybe sort of a EV convergence gathering at King Lake or something like that could be really nice. Also, want to do some more linking with the SAE. We also want to look for some grants. So if anyone knows where we can put in grant applications, or anyone's got a flair for grant application writing, then we'd love to see you about. And also, we want to increase the mailing list and the reach of the group. So, you know, again, if all of you can help share that information. We want you to own this group, all right? So I want you all to be engaged and engaging, to be able to speak your mind about the group, to share your ideas, and also your concerns. If you think that we should be doing something different, then let us know. If you think something's really good, let us know, so that we can give more of what people want, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, expand our reach, and all those sort of things that will help grow this group, and in turn grow the movement of electric vehicles. That is all I can say, and yeah, once again, thank you to all for your attendance.
James, before you go on, there is another person that needs to also be thanked.
Ah, yes.
And that's Dean himself, within the committee, gets up here and does everything you're here. It's all Dean. So hold it together.
Oh, love it. Well, look, I couldn't be here if it wasn't for those people backing me up. People like Rebecca and Bryce and Paul and Mario, and look, you know, it's all those people that help make this happen. So, Secretary's report. Is there anything Secretary to report?
Yeah, I wanted to say a few words.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll be through this brief.
Hi guys, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of say a little bit about the last 12 months. I started this time last year as Secretary, not long after Michael resigned as Chairman, and Dean stepped in as a temporary convener, which we actually changed the role to facilitator rather than like chairman now or someone else like a dictator. So we sort of made that more fair. But Dean stepped into that role temporarily, and he's still there. So I really want to commend Dean for doing that, for being a stand for the group and to keep it ticking over. I'm not sure that he's even sort of voiced stepping aside or not re-standing. So that's really quite good. I've had a great time being secretary of the group. I've really, as much as I've sort of struggled with being organised with agendas and minutes and getting notifications out soon enough and those sorts of things, running a business at the same time and everything, it's been reasonably an effort. I think I've probably put more effort in than maybe was expected or required, but I'm really passionate about the group, so I've enjoyed it. A lot's happened, including the organising of the first EV Expo that we've ever held, in which, I thought that was a fantastic effort for our group, and I'm really excited about the next one. We've really gained a lot of useful infrastructure due to Adrian's efforts on the AV front, which is great, so it's allowing us to expand our reach, and everyone else's efforts as well, as Dean went into detail on. I won't go through that again, but I had some very similar things to say, other than also thanks to David, who organises the sign-in sheets and those sorts of things as well that are done as part of the background setup, and those people that arrive early so that we can have these meetings run smoothly. Essentially, I just wanted to reiterate that we are sort of really keen to focus on expanding the EVs on the road. So there's a lot in that space that's possible, from approaching councils and running little mini seminars and conferences aimed at people who can actually start implementing charging infrastructure and letting down some of those barriers to EV uptake. Although I'm going to step down as secretary due to personal reasons, I am still going to be very much involved and backing Dean up in his role, and very much attending these things if I can. So I'm definitely still a big part of the EV Expo, and always will be, I would say. So just a big thanks to everyone who's involved, and to keep up the good work, because we're really close now to actually having EVs tip over that tipping point where it's actually not a leftist hippie thing to do to have an EV. It's actually a mainstream thing to do. So I'm really proud of our efforts to do that, and let's keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay, now a Treasurer's report.
Do you want me to come up with this?
As you like it, Mario.
Short. As was mentioned, the Expo from last year did give us a few more dollars in the bank. The other events that we held, field nights, were quite successful and also contributed to it. To date, as of tonight, we're at $1,045.21, and that's taking into account the artwork that's been done for Expo 2014, plus registration fees that we've attended functions. So that's where we stand at the moment, at $1,045.21.
So wicked. That's a grand I could use. Okay, but probably won't.
Interest rates.
All right. And again, thank you again, Mario, for his work as treasurer. All right, now it's the formal bit of the evening where vacate all the positions, and we'll just go through the different members. So we'll put up any nominations for convener. Does anyone want to have a go at convening this group?
I'd like to nominate Dean.
Very good. Any other nominations? Anyone want to run again me? Okay, well, that's been seconded. So all those in favour? Aye.
Yeah.
All right, you got me again. So beware. All right, as you know, Secretary is Rebecca stepping aside as Secretary. For those that might want to know, the Secretary just sort of compiles the agenda, sends out an email to everyone about the upcoming meetings with the agenda on it. Also writes up the agenda from the previous meeting, and that's the bare bones of what the secretary does. So we're looking for nominations for secretary for the EV group. So rush of hands. Please, not everyone at once. One at a time, please. Come on. Come on.
Meetings are only held once every couple of months. There's templates.
Well, these meetings are held once a month.
Oh yeah, I mean committee meetings.
Committee meetings are held once every 2 or 3 months, and they're not onerous. So you won't be an admin slave, but someone who can type more than 4 words a minute like me would probably be useful. So I don't want to leave the position open, but I would like someone to step in. All right, look, I'm going to have to leave that one open for the time being. We've got a treasurer as well. That's as the treasurer's role is just the person who looks after the purse strings. It's not too onerous again, but we do need someone to take over the treasurer role position. So do I have any nomination? Yes, you sir. Anyone for treasurer? Any nominations for treasurer? Well, it's not a very hard position. It's part of making this group work. So
It's good that you'd like to come in. Give you all the templates. It's really easy.
well, even Mario could do it.
Mario's only stepping away because he can't guarantee to be at every meeting because of work commitments. I'm in the same boat. But with having a young baby, I wouldn't want everyone else to have to be exposed to that. So yeah, really, they're not big jobs.
David, you'll be doing a good job. Nominate. David.
Do we have a nomination?
Yes, David.
Oh, do we have a second? Wicked. Do we have an acceptance?
Well done.
Fantastic. So all those in favour of David as treasurer? Aye? Fantastic. I'm excited. Okay, meeting coordinator so far has been Paul. He's just stepped into the breach. He's been doing a wonderful job, and I'd like to see him continue the job. So I'd like to re-nominate Paul as meeting coordinator, and just wondering if I can get a seconder. Now, do you accept the nomination? Fantastic. Anyone want to run against him? Okay. All those in favour of Paul being meeting coordinator? Raise your hands. Fantastic. Okay. Promotions officer. For those that have a flair, who talk with their hands, who are involved in advertising. Yes, no?
It's sort of just a rough role that I'm kind of doing at the moment, as well as Robert Stephen put his hand up to do a bit of work in that space, but has since overloaded himself, so he's not actually doing anything. So, I mean, I will continue to do some work in that space, so this is like really half a person's role. Simply just to put some things on Facebook every now and then,
yeah.
Potentially to write, you know, the odd press release maybe to some newspapers or something like that, as you see fit to try and expand the reach of our group or things like that.
Anyone who's an internet junkie spends far too much time on the interwebs and social. Anyone into their social media, then this would probably be a good role, because you could just sweep it up in your normal day-to-day interwebbing. So, do I have any hands? Or you're all a bit being a bit shy. Okay, the AV tech. Again, I'd like to nominate Adrian, because he's been doing such a lovely job. You accept? All right. Second, all those in favour of Adrian staying at AV Hero? Fantastic.
4 years later.
And any other general committee members? How many general committee members do we need?
As many.
Oh, we can have as many as we want. So if anyone wants to just be a general committee member, look, we see you're all a little bit shy now, but maybe after the meeting when the tea and biscuits start working their magic, and then hopefully some of you might want to step up and sit on the committee. It's not onerous. It's quite fun. We're a nice bunch of people, well, generally speaking, and we make good things happen. So I'll just leave that as it is. So we now's come to the bit where get to introduce our speaker for tonight and our last speaker for the year. We've talked about lots of EV topics during the year, but now we're up to the one about EV charging. So Richard Pagliarella is going to speak now about EV charging. Where are we now? Richard's background is, well, he's currently with sitting member with Standards Australia. He's also the Environment Policy Manager at Toyota. And
let's go with it. It's Riccardo.
Oh, Riccardo, sorry. What did I say?
Richard.
Oh, did I? Oh, sorry, I left the O off. My naughtiness. And also has a background in engineering, being involved with both Tesla and Renault in past incarnations. So I want to ask Riccardo to get up here and give us the good oil on EV charging, how it happens, and all that sort of stuff.
Just before we start, maybe.
Do stuff if you want.
Really an hour. Maybe. Awesome. Thanks, Jim.
Pretty good. I like the shortness. Thank you very much.
Well, some of you look familiar. This shirt's a bit small and I'm having a fat week, so anyone on the back end of that camera I apologise to immediately. It's a shocking view. As Dean suggested, and Riccardo Pagliarella, I currently work for Toyota by day. Ironically, we have a we have an environmental policy group that sits in corporate affairs. We also have engineers that work more directly on vehicle issues. In our product planning department, they sit alongside economists, product planners, all sorts of stuff. We have sales and marketing people. So basically getting sustainable mobility to market is a fairly diffuse process in a very large company. My background's a bit interesting. I'm an engineer by trade, so degree in mechanical, doctorate in vehicle aerodynamics for intelligent transport systems. I went to Renault to work in Formula 1 cars, technically a hybrid, so the 2009 F1 car I had bits and pieces to do with. It was a very fortunate experience. After Tesla Motors and the Aerothermal Group, or Thermal Systems as it was called, which is basically how things go hot and cold in an EV, and air and coolant flows around them. And for those who have studied the Model S, there is a lot of air going around it, but more so the cooling system is quite complex to achieve what is a very wide operating envelope thermally for an EV. I came to Toyota for a number of reasons. Mum and Dad got sick and needed their son back home, which was a good enough reason, if any. But aside from that, Australia is a fairly nascent market when it comes to EVs or sustainable mobility in general. It's called grid-connected vehicles. And it was important to be able to come back and make a difference. Toyota is a fairly significant industry player, so it's easier to effect significant change from this position than it is otherwise. I have a little bit to do with Standards Australia. I'm an observing member on a board called ELO 54 that deals with demand response standards for vehicle charging infrastructure. Anyone familiar with demand response? No? Wow, okay. We'll get to that. This talk is a bit of an interesting one because sustainable mobility is a very new thing in Australia, and the level of education among, I've only had one coffee for the day, so patience. The level of education among various audiences can vary significantly, and because I represent a corporate entity, there's only so much we can say. At times, our engineering division is quite literally in Japan, so we are reflective of things that happen in another country. The level of this talk can be a bit higher or a bit lower for a few people, so if you want more or less detail, feel free to put your hands up, stop, interrupt at any point, and I'll do the best I can to amend things. So yeah, moving right along, click a button, do stuff. So, we'll start with where I come into it, because Toyota is a bit specific about the way the future goes. So whenever people say, it's electric vehicles, it's EVs, it's this, that, and the other, I've got to stop and say, back up a little, guys. Sustainable mobility is not all about EVs, for a number of reasons. What's the biggest one to you guys? Why would it not just be EVs? Let's take a whip round.
Some electricity disadvantages.
Good. Any others?
Range.
Good.
There's other competing technologies, fuel cells.
There are.
Batteries are unsustainable.
To a degree, yep.
Yeah.
These are all fair reasons. There are many reasons people say EV. They say it's greener, which is a greenwashing statement in itself. Greener is a very complex thing. And we're entering an age where mobility needs to be well thought out. There really are no silver bullets moving forwards. This isn't your father's car where you drove a Holden with a 308 and knew the specs of the engine and fuel consumption was someone else's problem. I often ask people to think about what your children will drive and what story they'll tell about their cars. And it forces people to think about, well, you know, economy, sustainability, these are important issues. How do we face them? How do we tackle them? It usually starts a fairly robust discussion. So if you look at wheel-to-well economies in Australia, for argument's sake, for both hydrogen and electricity, both are fairly variable. We live in a part of the world where currently it's pretty shitty to fill your car up with both compared to petrol. There are choices. You can buy green energy. If you're into making hydrogen, there's a number of ways you can do it. And if you're consuming fuel, there's a number of ways you can do that. But the point is, no silver bullets. Some technologies are better amenable to some project missions than others. If you're driving short distances, EVs make a hell of a lot of sense. If you're driving very long distances, EVs become preposterously expensive because the size of the battery needs to be quite large, unless you change your usage paradigm and charge quite often, which is something some people are willing to take. It's a gap some others aren't willing to make, and there's education in the middle that needs to bridge this gap. Toyota's general take on things, being a Japanese company that's very tied to a future hydrogen economy, is long distances, fuel cell vehicles, short distances, EVs, something in the middle, plug-in hybrids, or grid-connected vehicles that go both ways. And we should say that connecting to the grid is not just about charging. This particular image is a stock Toyota. You'll see it in a lot of Toyota presentations, many of which are freely downloadable on the net. So if you look up some of our more serious energy head groups in Japan, Katsuhiko Hirose is one, Nobi Koga is another. You punch in their names, Toyota, PDF, you'll find presentations they're given in places that go very seriously into the nuts and bolts of wheel-to-wheel economies and efficiencies for fuel cells and sustainable mobility options for charging infrastructure and all sorts of stuff. So you'll see this picture come up quite often that the cars do change. Well, it's basically all based off hybrid technology. Anyone know anything about, give me the basics of Toyota's hybrid synergy drive? No. Anyone? Prius? Yep, it is. It is. What's the guts of it?
It has a petrol engine and an electric engine.
Actually, it's two electric engines. Right. So there's a number of ways you can do a hybrid. Honda, for argument's sake, has gotten up and said we've got 3 hybrid systems in development, one with one motor and a generator, or motor generator unit and an IC engine. We use 2. So motor generator 1, motor generator 2. They've got different purposes depending what you do. Interestingly, key point, the patent that forms the basis of hybrid energy drive is not actually a Toyota technology. Though Toyota was playing with hybrid tech about 20 years before that thing came out or was developed. It's a TRW patent, so I think it's, long story short, 2 American engineers working for a German parent came up with this when this was slated for production. A literature review of best ideas out there and most sustainable technologies going forwards came out, and we went this way. And that was that. So you add a grid connection and you end up with plug-in hybrid. You delete the IC engine and you end up with a pure EV. You replace part of the battery, you still need a battery, and add a hybrid fuel stack, and you end up with a fuel cell vehicle. These can and should be grid connected. Why? Run a fuel cell backwards and you can do what? Yeah, your grid export is a big thing with these things. So 3 kilos of hydrogen can do a lot of stuff in terms of a blackout or increases energy security in your home. Mind you, grid export's possible wherever you go. It just depends on the size of how much energy you've got or the magnitude of energy you have on board. So the grid connection's important. We're here in Australia. We're hoping to complete the journey. The next bastion of infrastructure we're missing in the near term is the grid connection, or an amenable grid connection. So I've been asked to come here and talk about charging. Charging takes many parts. Slide on. Oh, I can do that. That's fantastic. Didn't see the keyboard. All right. What does Toyota do for EVs? Surreptitious, this one, because I had a hand in engineering it at Tesla. Who's heard of this? It is a RAV4, not least because it looks like a RAV4. What about it? It is.
Tesla technology, good range.
Yep.
Available there.
Correct. Tesla technology. So Tesla did the battery, the powertrain, shared architecture broadly with the Model S. It's a very fast car when it's completely derated, which of course for public use it's not. But it still runs at a fair clip. It's got a very decent range. It's also very bloody expensive. And we make Toyotas. This doesn't carry a Lexus badge. So the technology needs to become more amenable. High fixed costs in this. The battery does cost a lot of money. It actually is a very safe EV. No disrespect to any former employers or anyone that makes EVs on their own, whatnot, but there's a good amount of videos online on YouTube on Toyota's ESQ channel that goes into the safety that went into this car. Interestingly, this isn't the only EV we do. There are a few EVs. The IQ EV that will be in a subsequent photo was an indigenous Toyota tech pretty much all the way. What does it charge at?
What is the range of the?
About 160 mile. 160 mile on a good day. What does it charge at? 110 and 240 volts. It's great when you ask people what it charges at. The first unit they give you is voltage, which is not really what it charges at. That's part of the story.
10 kilowatts.
Someone's been studying. The charger on it is rated to 10 kilowatts. That's fantastic. It will draw 40 amps through a level 2 port, which is an interesting bit into our discussion. What's notable about 40 amps? What's your house connected at? Well, that's your port, but the actual main line going into your house for the Sparkies. 64 back in the day, good. More recent houses? 80. 80. New dwellings, 80. Alright, so you charge that at full whack, you can use half your house. Half your house's allowance, which is all of a sudden a paradigm that most people didn't have to deal with their cars previously. So the whole notion of you want to charge, that's great, but what do you want to charge at? And on we go. And that's the IQ EV. So we'll start the serious end of the discussion here. Who can tell me what we're looking at? Obviously it's an IQ EV. It's plugged into a charging pole. What's this? That's a Shademo, very good. That's a Shademo. This is a J1772, someone yelled out.
Yeah.
Great, mode 1, mode 2, mode 3.
Oh, mode 2, I guess you get mode 1.
Level 1.
Level 1, very good. What does that mean?
Fast.
Fast, slow? Slow, good. What else does it mean?
Come back tomorrow.
Come back, not necessarily. Depends what you're charging at.
Better for the battery, maybe.
Possibly better for the battery thermally. What else?
Good if it's your house, not so good if you're parked outside the supermarket.
Why?
Or when you don't want to sit there all day.
Depends on the car it's going through.
Night's not an issue.
Alright, so is that hardwired or is it plugged in? Take a guess. Plugged in. What's interesting about that?
Well, you've got to carry the charger cord with you. Or...
Yes, and Australians are lazy. They hate doing that.
Yeah, right.
Works well in America, but we are preposterously lazy people. We love convenience. We also love to rag on Americans for loving convenience, but it's ironic. We hate these things. You put this in the back of an Australian car, what usually happens? Stays there, very good. It doesn't get used at all, particularly if there's all that, and then left in your garage, never seen again. So that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is, and this is where we get serious into issues that vehicle manufacturers in Australia that are trying to introduce EVs run into with charging. How many volts were sold last year? Ballpark me. 80. Fantastic. All right, so how many volts do you think will be sold total?
80.
Let's say 500 over the course of the car's life in Australia. All right, probably more, probably less, but you know that's Holden's business. But the point is, it's not really a lot of cars to run an entire homologation program for, is it? Homologation being the art of it comes to market, make sure it doesn't kill anyone, or have their lawyers descend on you, or something like that. So if you want to connect a car to the grid via this kind of, you know, dongle type charger, and this is the first problem we get to grid-connected vehicles in Australia. What do you have to make sure this thing doesn't do?
Burn your house down.
Burn your house down. Fantastic. Why would it do that?
Your house is only rated 10 amp.
Your plugs in your homes are only rated to 10 amps unless you're special.
And 15 amp would be the basic requirement. Level 1.
1772 can go down to 5. In some cases even less. All right. So you can. Does everyone know how this modulates current?
No.
Okay. So these things handshake. They're a bit dumb about it. Like you'll see a few papers from. I love it when you get papers from the utility side because they're like, once the car communicates its state of charge, cars don't communicate their state of charge. Nor do they tell you, you know, how they're feeling or, you know, their VIN number or anything like that. That's bullshit, right? All the car tells you, plug this thing in, and it says on a PWM signal, I have so much current to give you. And that can go up to, I think, 60, 80, any 1772 interacts. It's a linear scale, and then it goes higher range for a bit, but you know, you're up to, you clip it around 80 amps, probably 60. So you can say, I've got so many amps to give you, and the car can say, great, I'll either take that charge or I won't. And on it goes. And it can draw up to that much. What does a charging event look like? Is it, you know, is it
Most lithium batteries are charged with a constant current until they get to, depending on the chemistry, say 80% or something like that, and then they go to the diminishing current with fixed voltage.
Beautiful. Exactly. So it's good morning, how you going? And then top up right at the end. But that part's pretty meaty. So what current do you want to make that? If your plugs are 10 amps, and we're not America, or Europe, at 15, 13, 16, all that sort of stuff, and you know the plug could do 10, that's just the plug. If you're selling in Australia, what do you knock this thing, that's where the handshaking is done? It's called a charge coupler interrupt device, and the whole thing's an EVSC. What do you knock that off at? Very good. You've done 10 times 240 and come up with a raw number. No. That's the most the plug will take. Engineers always work with a factor of safety. What is it with the volt?
3.3.
Not for the level 1 that comes with the car, not for the convenience charger.
2.4?
No. 6. Why? Why do they need a factor of safety? Old wiring in your house. You might not have a dedicated breaker on that line. You may have tried to wire your own homes. You're not electricians. All that sort of stuff. So there are some things to think about. And while this is a paradigm that very readily enables charging, it's not one we want to encourage. Right? So we come to level 2 charging. Level 2 charging uses safety protocols compared to this that are the same, different. Same. They're identical, so the handshaking's the same. What's the big difference with level 2? Higher current, usually.
Dedicated circuitry.
Pardon?
Dedicated circuitry.
Dedicated circuitry is the word we love to hear. And from the vehicle industry, you want an EV, you want a PEV, you want a grid-connected vehicle. That's great. Let us we don't mandate certain electricians. You get into an interesting point, though. I'll skip ahead to this and we'll come back to the other one. Who's seen these? Some of you have definitely seen this one. Is that why your hands went up? Yeah, okay, what's this one?
460 bucks.
400? Well done, man. So, yes, in America land, the Bosch PowerMax in the 20 amp variant is certainly 450 bucks retail, which turned the market on its head. So much like there's segmentation in the battery market, there's lithium ion, there's NOM, there's water cooled there's liquid cooled, there's all sorts of stuff. You wanted to buy an EVSC 5 years ago, and you got an EVSC. And if you wanted the commercial version of the EVSC, they put it in a bollard for you. And if you wanted the home version of the EVSC, they took it out of the bollard for you. And the base cost of it was quite high because you had the 1772 handle was rated to 100,000 cycles, or something designed just in case it went into public infrastructure and whatnot. But the market's segmented because more people are buying these cars, which is great. So you get a handle that's or a connector that's rated to 10 or 20,000, which if you think about it over the life of your car, it's pretty usable. It doesn't need to go rain, hail, or shine because you have garages or a carport, something like that. So the standards can be made to a bit lower. The cost comes a bit further down. The discussion we're going to have, that will get a bit hairy for a few of you, is the amount of charge current you need can come down as well too, which is useful. And you end up with something that retails in America for $450. Pretty damn good, yeah? You know about that one? We'll come back to that one. To answer your question, who makes this? Bosch. How you have things to learn. Look, like most electrical goods, there are designers, there are manufacturers, there are resellers, there are all sorts of people along the parts supply chain. Do you really think Bosch makes this with Germans in a factory in Germany? China. Who said Delta? A very informed man in the back row. Delta is one of the biggest electronics manufacturing companies in the world. They do just about everything. Every damn thing. What does that mean? Delta makes it. Made in China, probably. What else? I wouldn't say dodgy. Made to a price, which isn't a bad thing. For home use, the price can be smaller. Yeah, it's got to be smaller. Do you think it means Delta makes their own version of this or rebranded versions of this thing?
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yeah, absolutely. No worries, mate. Yeah, not a problem. Is it probably going to be cheaper or more expensive than the Bosch?
Cheaper.
Probably a bit cheaper. That's great. So to wit your question, we're talking about a lot of current here. And even if we're not talking about a lot of current, if we're talking 32 amps, 20 amps, 16 amps, 12 amps, we're still talking about a fairly high duty cycle. Paul, you look like you can install things yourself, and that's wonderful. You are an electrical contractor, but I hope that in 10 years, turning up to the alternative technology feature is completely redundant. Your mission as an EV working group should be to not exist in 10 years. There should be nothing alternative about it. Right? Yeah. So that conversation out the window. And we come back to saying, well, how do you get one that's warranty, guaranteed, installed, this, that, the other? Because this is the car industry we're talking about. Get a car on the road takes a shitload of testing. Believe you me. Right? There are processes that are designed off the back of 100+ years of experience. So the difference is the Bosch one will come probably with a service contract. It will come with a warranty that's contingent on Bosch knowing that someone installed it within certain rules and regulations and the rest of it. And for Joe Public, that means there'll probably be a 2+ year warranty that comes with that thing versus a parts-only warranty for the one that comes cheaper. That's the difference. Yes?
I inquired of Nissan how much their brick cost, and they quoted me $2,600.
For that?
No, the brick, it's not as sophisticated as that. They're just a block with a relay in it and some electronics.
One of those?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the Panasonic makes that. It's the same one that we've... Yeah.
So I looked at the Bosch, now I ran out, I did bring up a friend who works for Bosch.
Sure.
And I said, I want to get one of these Bosch things. And he said, yeah, and it's certified for Australia. Because
well, I know all the people at Bosch on the working groups, so I'm not allowed to talk. But I would suspect that Bosch pretty much holds the majority of the service contracts for spare parts EVSEs in the country. And they hold a number of them also overseas as well. So the Prius in Canada, in North America, is SPX, now Bosch. I think the Volt here, the Volt's certainly overseas. Nissan Leaf, possibly, I'm not sure. But it'll come, and trust me, the public's arguing for it. I like to tell people the cars to watch out for in 2014 are the i3 and the Outlander PHEV. I'm relatively confident that this thing not that thing, that this thing will come to market here. It won't cost 450 when it does, because the homologation costs are about the same and the market's that much smaller. But Bosch will start facing some fairly stern competition if it's priced beyond the means of the market. I'd be very, very surprised if within 3 years it cost more than $1,000, including someone to come home, to put in an EVSC, called to install. Very, very, very surprised. It certainly wouldn't be good for the market, and as auto manufacturers, it's not something we want to encourage either. We need these things to be cheap.
Right. The iMac one is $1,600, and I can't work out why the electronics in that box are in the car.
This is an interesting thing.
Because it needs to be hand-strapped.
I can answer that one. Perhaps you needed to turn off the power
Remotely.
so the car can't do that. The box has to do that.
This is true, to an extent. Who knows what that dates back to? This is 1772. New spec.
1772?
Yeah. There was an old specification called Navcom connector. That dates back to the original carb EV mandate back in the day. So I remember when you had the EV1 that had the magnet charge paddle, and everyone else had some weird vacuum cleaner looking attachment. Same protocol. All right, so the ideas go back a fair while. And this is what I mean. There's not really much alternative about EVs or grid connection. The stuff's been around for a while. It's a fairly robust way of doing things that takes it off the vehicle. So we come back to where we were, skipping around a bit. So that's what's wrong with the 1772 side to start with. What about that? Here comes Pandora's box. It is DC fast charging. How many DC fast charging standards do you know of? That one. Who's heard of 1772 combo? So 1772 with two big pins down the bottom, very good. Mechanical combo, whatever they call in the European version, the same thing. So a three-phase plug with two big DC pins down the bottom. Tesla supercharger, former employer, handles a shitload of current. Shouldn't swear, representing Toyota tonight. There are a few. What's the major difference with DC fast charging? In the name. It's DC.
Yeah, it's a direct connection to the battery or direct.
It is a direct connection to the battery, and this is the one people have trouble fathoming. Up to a certain rate of charge current, it's like charging your old, Dick Smith charger. Plug your batteries in, plug the other end into a wall, into the box, and your NiCads are ready to go in 4 hours or something like that. Back into your remote control or your. I used to have like a Bullet remote control car. I'm always using that thing, and that's the paradigm I used with my mother. Mum, remember my Bullet? Yeah, it's just like that. Fantastic. So what's DC fast? Trickier. DC fast is reaching into the guts of the battery. And it's tough. So what do you need to do to reach into the guts of the battery? How many different components do you think you piss off along the way? Battery management system. There's the connector itself. The car probably wants to know what you're doing as well. There's a bus connection into the car. Sounds all of a sudden like it's doing a hell of a lot more than the AC charger was. CHAdeMO actually maintains a CAN bus communication, so the same communication standard used within your vehicle to tell your engine computer what it's doing, or your EV controller what it's doing, your BMS and this and that and the other. And you're talking bus networks that are very complicated. There's nothing really straightforward about it, nothing hobbyist. That breaks it out to a box, a large box that costs a lot of money. So it's quite a complex standard. We would contend that CHAdeMO is not the future of DC fast charging. It was a very good start when chargers existed and needed batteries to be well and truly mollycoddled along the way for DC fast. Why do they need to be well and truly mollycoddled? What don't they like? Someone said, I'm about to buy a Leaf. Who's about to buy a Leaf? We just bought a Leaf. Why? How often you plan on DC fast charging it?
Never.
Why?
It
ruins the battery. DC fast charging generates a lot of heat. A lot of heat. You'll read Tesla does, I think, clips at 120 kilowatts maximum. The supercharger.
Yep.
Tesla's got a liquid-cooled battery, motor, inverter. You can bleed the air conditioning system into managing battery loads. You can do some pretty cool party tricks on a Tesla Model S. The Leaf's got an air-cooled battery. It's a different price point. So that's part of the reason. Right? So there's a bit of confusion on what this standard's actually going to be. There is some sort of a need for DC fast, and broadly, DC fast is to maintain existing usage paradigms more than anything else. So there are people that just don't get the notion that they can fill up at any time, and that's not really an important thing. We've done, yep. Press. Really good study in the US. So there were 600 cars made globally, 4 you can drive with GoGet in Australia at the moment, 1 I keep at the office. 130 went to the States. And in the States you can charge at 240 or 110, as a few of you have shouted out. So there's a difference in charging speed. There's people use them for short distances, long distances, it's a plug-in, hybrid, so you can do a lot of different stuff. But a good study was done on what's the most effective way of displacing petrol consumption. And we had a lot of data, 130 cars, years of traveling around and whatnot. And the factors considered were charging speed, frequency of charging, and onboard battery size. What do you think won out?
Charging.
No. No. Frequency of charging. How often you charge. Right. Expensive. We've talked about an EVSE that costs $450. What do you think of a DC fast charger costs? $4.5 grand. You find one for $4.5 grand, I'll buy it now. 30 upwards. Yeah, it's still a very expensive technology.
The dual trillium is 50 grand.
Yep.
Get a single one for 25.
So it's something like that compared to the petrol as a petrol station cost-wise installation.
We talked about some really cool projects, all right? And it's more about the paradigm. So I step back from that question and say, let's look at what we're actually trying to do. We're trying to get alternate tech to market as quickly as we can. We're trying to give consumers the freedom to say, I choose what electricity I use or what energy source I use. Electricity, coal-fired in Victoria, baseload, yep, whatever, I'm going to pay extra for green credits and drive happily that way. Shake of the head, nod, yes.
Solar panels on the roof, please.
Solar panels on the roof, please, So that's a way to do it, not a problem. Some projects that were dreamt up, we'll get there, because we work a bit with the Automotive Cooperative Research Council, the Auto CRC, so students, final year projects, all that sort of jazz, was to do a costing model. So could you do a pricing engine based off the notion that electricity is spot priced in Australia? Jump on the AEMO website, it's a lot of fun. And you could actually put together a DC fast charging station, much as you would a petrol station. So could you work out the financial math to dynamically work out what change in energy price would be? So you could opportunity cost yourself, drive in and spend 5 minutes there, charge up, go home. That's one paradigm.
As in the station would be buying at low price and storing on site?
Possibly. That's one way you could abet the cost. Or you just you give people a choice. Yeah. Basically, we'll get to demand response, and that's
the generator.
Could do. It's not as stupid as it sounds. I mean, gas prices are due to spike, but for argument's sake, Toyota's looking at cogeneration at an alternate facility. So take off half our base load. That's essentially a big generator. These things happen. There are many ways you can skin the cat, and there are no silver bullets. It's about making informed choices. So on one hand, you've got the petrol station. Just get there. The other hand, there's and Daryl's going to shoot me for repeating something I gave in the last presentation, what I call the $100,000 argument. So we talked about more public infrastructure. If I went to anyone and said, guess what, Toyota's got a bit of money to squirt around, and we'd love you to build some public charging infrastructure. Here's 100 grand. Week 1, they're horribly excited. Week 2, they go, oh, shit, where do the car parks go? How do we make sure that, you can park there, but you can't, and you should, and you might get fined if you do, and you don't hang around too long, and this is all a bit complicated. Week 3 is which charges, what current rate, and by week 8, it's stuff that we'll put in a DC fast under an L curve and call it a Halo project. And that's not what we want. The Victorian EV trial trumpets, I love Christian Handberg, and I had him speaking up here. Christian's kind of an industry mentor. I look up to him. I really do. One of the findings was faster charging. DC fast would really enable things and make things easier for consumers, and that's great. It's true, it would. But if you're trying to grow a market quickly, for the cost of 20, level 2 charging poles of a decent rate, you can put in one DC fast charger. I'd take the 20 and be smart about where you put them, right? And it's generating the smarts that's the biggest gap in public infrastructure in Australia. Is there money? Surprisingly, yes. Most of the money that goes into charging infrastructure at the moment, it's all from private equity. So people are contributing. People are realising it's the thing. But if a fleet owner came up to me tomorrow and said, "Sell it to me. You've got plug-in Prius, whatever, or like a car that you could sell me at a decent rate." My corporate social responsibility depends on a number of things, and we can make a real statement with lowering the carbon that comes out of our vehicle fleet because we've got 2,000 cars or whatnot. How do we charge these damn things? Well, you buy charging stations. Great. With what electricity? When do you charge them? What's the policy? There's a lot of thought that goes into that. We have a gap, but it's important to embrace the gap and say, let's go through the hard yards and charge. The problem isn't, I'd like to build my own EVSE because I think it's cool. The problem is, how do we abate carbon reasonably? How do we displace petrol? If that's the target, I'd go with the carbon argument. It's more complex, but more socially worthwhile than saying, we want to displace petrol use. You can do that, but end up with a higher carbon penalty and kind of defeated the point. All right, questions? I know I was a bit behind on them, I'm sorry.
You actually glossed over this a bit fast for me. This idea of having electronic box to feed the car is completely opposite to what we have all of our grey nomads going around Australia with their caravans. They plug a 15 amp cord into a socket, the other end goes into their caravan. Now the iMove only draws 11 amps. Now why on earth do we have to go to all these electronic complications when we just plug straight in like you would a caravan?
I think it's good for informed customers. And again, we come back to education. No silver bullets. If you said, what's the standard part you sell with a car? You said, Riccardo, if you had to unleash the Prius plug-in, which is on sale overseas, or the RAV4 EV, or God forbid you went to work for BMW and got the i3, lovely car, saw the demo. Did anyone see the i3? Happy to talk, it's great, isn't it? What would you sell? Would you sell one of those, or I've lost my slides, or one of these? I'd say the default, in lieu of there being a choice, should be one of these. I prefer to increase the permanent install base with every vehicle sale if I had to choose one, and alleviate the risk to the consumer, to an uninformed consumer, than anything else. I'd love to sell this as a spare part, and I'd love to get to a day very quickly where we can give customers the choice. How do you plan on using this car? I'm a grey nomad. Great, we've got a level 1 for you. Because at the moment the problem we have is, and the Prius is a great example, the 5 that came to Australia all did come with Panasonic, that much, with a 15 amp plug on it because it's set at 12 amps. What do you think the first thing some consumers try to do is? Yeah, either follow the earth or make an adapter. Perilously dangerous situations. Perilously dangerous. And this is the automotive industry. We're talking experiential messages now. This forum, we can talk in terms of technology. Have you seen the latest ads for Camry? The ad for the Camry Hybrid is nice. It's kid bopping around. His dad listening to Huey Lewis or whatever. It doesn't actually say anything about the product. This is a forum where we can talk about product. If we go into standard advertising channels, not that there's anything wrong with them. If you tell people, don't shave that plug or your house will catch on fire at worst, that's the end of the model, right? And that's every grid-connected vehicle out there. So we're trying to build, how can I put this? I was actually talking about this before we got in. It's not to say that technology is poor. Technology is wonderful. Technology is very safe if you do it the right way, as is anything. If our paradigm, if this was the ATA and we've been on the back of 110 years of EVs, and we were talking about, have you heard of the latest thing? They're internal combustion engines. You can actually have a miniature power plant on your car. You put this petrol stuff in one, or natural gas, the rest of it. The concerns you'd have would be, as a regular consumer, would be just as fantastic. You'd be like, you mean to say it generates emissions locally, like not at the power plant, like right here? Is that safe? Like, my kid's going to asphyxiate and die or whatnot? So the message needs to be clear, broad, and easily digestible.
Well, I have 2 electric cars. One's got a 10 amp lead, which cost me $10 at Kmart or somewhere.
Sure.
Plugs into the power point, it draws less than 10 amps. The other one's got a $1,600 unit to do the same thing for 11 amps. Now, if you can explain to me the increased risk going from 10 amps to 11 amps, I'd be very pleased to hear it.
The risk is very simply that you are an informed customer, and I'm enjoying this conversation. But you are such a minority, you're a statistical insignificance to the rest. I'd love to have you as a poster child, I really would. I'd put you up there saying, this is how easy it is.
We all drive a 2.4 kilo electric jug at home.
Yeah.
We just plug it in at the right gate.
Fantastic.
So why can't we do that with our cars? It doesn't go for long.
Well, it doesn't go for as long. There are some safety concerns. Like that level, that proper mode, I think I forgot the standards now, but to go with an extension lead, to charge
properly for 3 minutes, it should run properly for 3 hours.
Again, what you're suggesting makes sense, but that mode of charging, just an extension lead between the wall and your car, with no charge coupler in the middle, is actually illegal in some countries now.
Oh, I know. There's a lot of people want to make it complicated as possible.
Right. It's like saying, splicing your own extension cords, that's illegal too, or not recommended for very good reasons. And look, automotive history is littered with the notion that nothing's foolproof because fools are a genuinely ingenious, a genuinely ingenious bunch.
I'll shut up provided you tell me you're going to discuss inductive charging.
We'll touch on it. All right. I'd say though, for your level 1 EVSE, you might want to give Clipper Creek a call, or a bunch of people. We paid way less for our spare level 1s, much less, and they were able to do whatever current rate we wanted. So we were quite happy. So we'll get back to this, which is important. This one, Siemens VersaCharge. Who's heard of it? Very cool product because it comes with a number of different things if you want to. So I'd challenge you to go on like Home Depot or some Amazon, big American, I can order anything site, and take a look at the options you can get with this. You can get a revenue grade meter with it if you want. You can have various demand response, which is there's a Zigbee model. Like it'll talk to your smart meter in some countries, and probably not here, but in America it definitely will. Right? If your utility has infrastructure to deal with things, they make a version that will charge at 70 amps with a 90 amp connect. Sounds horribly exciting. 20, 70, bigger. Tell me the problems. Yeah, you got to connect it to something. You draw 70 amps on a charge, and your house is not doing a great deal else. Right?
Your lights might go dim.
Your lights might go a bit dim.
Lights just don't go dim.
Neighbours' lights might start going dim. How many cars do we have on market that actually charge level 2 at 70 amps?
That's a big battery.
That's a big flux battery, onboard charger, electronic size to dissipate a lot of heat, cost, component cost. How far do you really need to go during a day if you drive an EVSE or an EV daily? Do you really need to go much further than it would take to charge at a decent rate over 8 hours? No, you don't. All right, and that's a home grade charger, which is a pretty cool piece of kit. So education's important. Charging has become diffuse in a number of ways. There's a lot of segmentation in the market. My advice is buy what you need, not what is cool. Yes?
The hype is all towards faster charging.
Isn't it?
Whereas in my case, I want to be able to drive to my basic phone and plug a 10 amp plug in and charge the car. So I really want to wind back the pulse with the EVSE to bring it down to less than 10 amps, but I can't do it.
You can on a bunch of them. I know the Bosch Charge Express, they call it Charge Express, or Power, the model before this one. The SPX based unit does have a pot on the inside that you can tweak back and do stuff with. Of course, it's not recommended that you do, but there are EVSEs on the market that do have a selectable charge rate. That's not an impossibility at all. It's just a pulse width that goes out. No. Well, there are some that alleviate the need to break into the thing. This is where we go from ATA to mainstream. So, you know, I'm more on the mainstream side of things. It's certainly possible, all right? The other thing that we get into is demand response now, and this is really important. So we'll skip back to that. We'll go here. Bit of demand response. There's a few faces here if you can get my last page. Demand response.
So like demand supply based on fluctuations in the grid.
Essentially, it's
What happens at the end of the cycle actually where everyone
yeah.
No, at the end of the match, they actually have every 500 metres.
Correct. So, baseload power in Australia going, or the requirement for it going up or down? Let's take Victoria. Who votes up? Who votes down? The downs have it. You're correct. Baseload power is going. No, and this is where it gets interesting.
People with solar who have the high feeding tariffs, the method is buy off peak as much as you can, sell as much as your own, and now with 6 cents it's the other way around. Yeah, but the actual baseload comes down.
The baseload is certainly coming down, which means we've got what's our baseload generated on in Victoria for the most part? Brown coal. Are we replacing these brown coal power stations anytime soon? The baseload is going down. No, of course we're not. But peaking load, so what happens when you all come home and your kids want to play on the new PlayStation 4 and Xbox One because they're fighting over each other, and as good parents you bought them one of each because we live in a highly consumerized society and whatnot. You got to turn the aircon on and all this stuff. Peaking loads are going up. Right? Base loads, peaking loads. How are peaking loads met? With peaking power facilities. So things that can start up.
Yes,
There's turbines, whatnot, all sorts of jazz. So stuff that can start up. Solar doesn't work at 7 PM when there's no sun. Generally.
No, but when it's a hot day and everybody has their aircon on, solar actually fires.
Solar can be good. Solar's also kind of expensive. I'm a full advocate for solar. I think it's great. I think that solar works best when there's also off-grid storage. And in future, when batteries become sufficiently cheap and grid export becomes sufficiently diffused from vehicles, the best and cheapest batteries you'll find to alleviate wasted solar energy will be cars. There's no other industry that makes so many batteries in such an economy. You consider that the Camry I just gave up, so I just changed to a Corolla today. Because the Corolla is actually quite consumptive for its size. The hybrid Camry is big, consumes next to no fuel by comparison. Small baby Corolla consumes more, so I want to learn more about it, and I've taken one of these for my next work car. The battery in the hybrid Camry, when you're parked, is not doing a great deal. But if you could store stuff in it, you'd say, well, it's one a bit, not that fantastic. But you've got a car park full of them, and you've got a hot day, you can do a hell of a lot. And this gets into this, demand response is only part of the equation. When you can start exporting, going back and forth, and doing all sorts of policy management for electricity, this is why I got into this field, this is what gets really interesting, you can do some really cool stuff. So if you come back to the $100,000 argument, you've now got an idea of EVSEs, and you've got your customers some grid-connected cars, a nice blend of EVs, PEVs, all this sort of stuff. And you've got off-grid generation of your own. You might have a trigen facility, you might have solar, all that sort of jazz. You can affect some serious changes to your CO2 bottom line if you can shove energy around. We're a while off for standards, but the hardware can do it, and that's good. So demand response is really important. There are 4 big loads. And if you haven't and you want to have some fun, jump on Standards Australia. The draft of AS4755 might still be kicking around. But it's basically a standard for demand response in Australia. It's not perfect, but it is a good start. Right. And the point is there are 4 big loads. There are air conditioners, there are pool pumps, for those that have pools, there are heaters, water heaters, and there are EVSEs. And EVSEs are arguably the most concerning of the lot because the load is quite near its peak for the most of the charge event. Also because those of you that have EVSEs or EVs or PEVs tend to live close to each other. So when the automakers talk and say, well, look, take-up is not slated to be great in Australia for a big period of time. They say, great, but if there are 90 cars in Victoria and 10 of you live on the same street in Seddon, that's a bit interesting. because our supply agreements, and there's not just the capacity of the lines, but service agreements with power plants at the electrical node nearby and whatnot, was not sized to charge all 10 of you at full load at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then if we get a blackout, things really get interesting. If you jump on AEMO, and it's good, like to be informed, you're EV passionate people, jump on the AEMO website. You can actually see the spot price how it fluctuates during the day. So a kilowatt of electricity might range around about 3-4 cents wholesale. You might pay what, 17? I don't look at my bills. I should, but I don't. Yes.
34. 17 to 35.
17 to 35. Right.
34 is a common price.
All right. So you might pay that, but you pay that whether there's a blackout or not, whether you're near a blackout.
That's why I got plug-in press should be the vehicles at home. So if I've got 2 presses in the garage, one's running at home.
This is an interesting discussion because part of the standards discussion is concerned how we make that safe in homes. Because there's different concerns with vehicle to home and vehicle to grid export. Within your home boundary, you can do a number of things. Within the grid context, there's other concerns like metering and all sorts of jazz. But the long and the short of it is, if you can basically say, well, there's a blackout, utilities want to be able to say, we're approaching a blackout condition, we're very near one, electricity just went through the roof. But we're still selling to you at a certain rate, and you're going to draw fantastically. There are some prescient arguments that come on here. They can ask you to turn off. Most consumers go, that's great. How about a contract that incentivizes turning off under these conditions or turning it down under these conditions? Or how about something if we have a cloud-based solution, so those in the charge point network in America, all charge point stations, I believe, have some degree of demand response. They can actually pass through a dynamic price to the consumer to say, look, the grid is doing this, electricity at the moment costs this much. You still want to charge? Because it's important. One big difference between full pumps, air conditioners, water heaters, and cars is that when your wife is pregnant and really needs to get to hospital, whether there was a near blackout or not, you still need to get her there in a rush. And that's why you bought a car. There's a very powerful saying, if a car was invented tomorrow, governments would seek to outlaw it, likely. The independence and freedom it gives people. Probably right. So we want to maintain that degree of amenity and utility in whatever we do. But demand response is coming. So you'll see EVSE that can handle some degree of demand response. It'll be affected either via ZigBee or OCPP, which is more for backends on grids of EVSEs, was developed by the ELAD Foundation in the Netherlands. Version 2 of OCPP should be able to control current, dial it up, dial it down, do interesting stuff. How does it affect residential peeps like yourself? Well, if you go move in high or medium density residential accommodations, the hardware that you'll be charging off will probably look a lot like public infrastructure because that's the market it'll come from. So there's many things going on, but essentially when you get a lot of these things coming along, and we hope this is a problem we have to face. If it's a problem in Australia we have to deal with, it means mission accomplished. Grid-connected vehicles everywhere. You've got to manage the current load. And that's something we should embrace, quite frankly, because most people that drive these sorts of cars are smart people that like to save the husbandry of nature and be grid smart and whatnot. DC fast. Are there any questions so far?
I'm not sure how relevant it is. Someone raised the issue of the knowledge costs about whether the DP charging points, apparently in the committee, the standards committee, talking about whether they'd be allowed to be in the home or not. I don't know how valid that is or not.
EV charging points allowed to be in the home or not?
Yeah, no, someone had brought it up, so I didn't believe it, but since you're on the
No. Well, for starters, the committee I'm on doesn't deal with that. We strictly deal with demand response. There are 1 or 2 committees that deal with all sorts of EV-related standards. I wouldn't imagine there's anything that would limit.
It didn't make any sense, but
no.
it's
What you're likely to see, I believe we'd see, is that simply extension cord charging your car will drop off as something that's legal. Legal in Australia, it's been outlawed in many other countries.
Yeah, I think I don't want to tell you. I can't remember that question, and it was confusing because when I checked with the guy later, he was actually talking about Bosch. Couldn't bring a charger in because of regulation, and they were talking about the fact that the demand response standard hadn't been followed.
The thing with the standard is this one's tabled to be mandated quite quickly. So the process isn't as simple as there's a standard that becomes law tomorrow. But there is a strong interest driving it. What's the other way to manage demand response? If you don't do it, if you don't force it down people's throats.
Price.
Time of use tariffs, exactly, price. There's a good correlation between yourselves and people who look at their energy bills quite strictly. And San Francisco is another great example. There are time of use tariffs over there. People charge when it's smart to do so. End of story. Right, so for the initial phase of the market getting on board, you're likely to see TOU tariffs. That's great. Moving forwards, demand response is not a bad thing, particularly if you can incentivize it. It's a good thing. We touch on DC fast before I give a Toyota sort of spin at the end. This rather phallic looking thing is a Tesla supercharger. I love it. It's awesome. It is kind of sexy, and there are solar panels. The notion that you generate enough sun out of what's there to charge a fleet of Model S's at full work is a bit far-fetched. That being said, what are your thoughts on DC fast? And this is where people tend to vary.
Not necessarily from the city, but as everyone's putting San Francisco across the US, yeah. Something that's out in the middle of Melbourne City could be worthwhile.
Cross country definitely makes sense.
In a country like Australia,
yeah.
It makes sense.
But why can't public transport fill that gap like it already does? There's not that many people that drive between Melbourne and Sydney now.
Scope discussion. So this is part of the answer. This is part of the question, right? The Toyota answer to that, which is equally valid, is if you want to go long distances, get a fuel cell vehicle.
The other point about that is what about trucks going across the Melbourne, fast charging with my license. I don't know what their range is, but a network of them across.
Any truckies in the room? Any former truckies?
Yeah. I'm not trucking, but I went to Brisbane in a truck once.
Oh.
He filled it up in Melbourne. He didn't stop till he got to Brisbane.
Why?
He had enough fuel capacity on board.
Why does he have enough fuel capacity on board?
Price.
Price of what he's paid to drive is contingent on making it on time. Doesn't matter how fast you charge. If you've got to stop, your job's less. So I don't think you're going to see any trucks anytime soon doing fast charging and whatnot. You'll sooner see fuel cells. Why? Fuel cell infrastructure on a vehicle costs so much. If you want to double the range, what do you do to the side of the tank? Double it. You think that costs twice the powertrain cost? Or just an incremental amount of bigger tank?
Doesn't really take a fairly large tank. As opposed to petrol. It's still the same range.
Hydrogen.
Volumetric density, not mass density.
Yeah. Mass densities, it depends what you compress it at, really. A nice thing to study for hydrogen, if you're into the FCVs, and I suggest you do because they're cool, is to track the operating pressure of the storage systems over the last 10 years. It's gone up and up and up and up and up. And the automotive industry is a good place to watch it, because if it's going to appear in a car, it's got to be safe. It's got to be well engineered. It's got to be very robust.
And you also have the problem of leaking out through, even leaks out through materials.
Sure. You got that problem with some batteries as well. If you get a hydrogen peroxide gas leak, whatnot. But it's, to an engineer, and many of you will be engineers or whatnot, these aren't fears. These are just problems to overcome. Engineers are mercenaries for a cause. Hydrogen leak could be a problem. Good, go fix it. There's. It's not that fast. It's a fairly robust technology. It is a fairly robust technology. So the point is you can go a lot further. But that being said, DC fast does have a purpose. We talked about some segmentation in the level 2 charge rate issue. DC fast can be 10 kilowatts. DC fast can be 120 kilowatts. It can be more if your battery can sustain it. Where's the market for DC fast?
I suppose passenger cars travelling along freeways.
No, I mean the actual size of a DC fast charger.
Or the size of the charger.
Yeah, it's flux. 10 kilowatts, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200. Where do you see the growth? It's a big question, isn't it?
I think it's dangerous to start setting up people's expectations that they can fast charge, rather than setting, going with there's already a barrier. People know it takes time to charge, and perhaps as soon as you start introducing these concepts, they're expecting fast charge. It blows the price out of the water and creates a bigger barrier for a longer time to the uptake, it seems to me.
In a broad sense, I'd agree.
Yeah.
Right? DC fast in a closed network, which is why I deliberately chose the Tesla photo, works. Because you control everything.
So like for a fleet.
You make the battery, you make the battery management system, you make the charger. So you can make a charger that works with the chemistry of battery and the thermal limits of the battery that you use. You can guarantee performance across the entire system.
Yeah.
If you're going to make DC fast chargers that deal with a variety of vehicles out there, you know, there's 7 or 8 components between the charger and the actual battery cell itself. Often, as per many automotive supply chains, they're made by different manufacturers. So the amount of contingency built into the system is great. Is there a DC fast market at 10 kilowatts? Probably, because you could charge your Leaf on it and not worry too much about it a number of times a year. Is there a market at 120 kilowatts if you're not these guys? Probably not. Take a good look at the chargers that are being put in around Victoria. DC fast. There is a variance, but you're talking a lot of electrical power. A lot of electrical power. And ask yourself, with a bit of better planning, what could the same money have been spent on in a level 2 type scenario that really enabled the market? It's an easy answer to say DC fast. I have range anxiety, charge me quickly. But the message you want to get to consumers is, your range anxiety is never that bad, which is often true.
Education can fix that.
Education's the killer.
Let's not be too Melbourne-centric. I actually come from the country. And
sure.
I drive 240 kilometres today in a hybrid. But if there were fast chargers, I've got electric cars, I could have driven an electric car.
Sure.
Which emit no CO2.
Let's get away from tailpipe emissions and talk wheel to well.
Well, according to Elon Musk, it generates twice as much electricity as the cars will use.
I can't comment on what Elon Musk says. I'm a former employee. And when we leave, we sign things, all right? So,
that's all right.
Plus, I've got a lot of friends at Tesla, and Elon's a lovely guy personally, so I'm not going to sledge him.
Panels on this solar charger.
Yep.
And for 4 cars, he has adequate power there, double the amount of power they has. And that goes into the grid. So that those cars will produce no CO2.
It's a little more complicated. All right.
Well, I'm not a chemist, I'm an engineer, so explain it to me.
Look, it is a little more complicated, and it's good to start the discussion. It is excellent to start the discussion, and I'll concede, admit, embrace that there are usage missions where DC fast makes a lot of sense. But
well, we use a fast charger out of Coburg.
Sure.
Which means we're not going to come from
one at Moreland?
100 k's to Moreland.
Yep.
I can go anywhere in Melbourne because I've got a fully charged car which happens in half an hour.
I love that charger, I'll be honest. We have one of our Priuses
now,
based around the corner.
Now, you mentioned before, it costs 22,000. I paid more than that, unfortunately, but 22,000, that is not an expensive car. And it can use those fast chargers.
There are a number of people that debate whether the IMU qualifies as a car, but the point is the prices of them are certainly coming down. No, the price is certainly coming down. And I hope Mitsubishi does it. They've been great by getting the first one in.
System.
It does.
And they guarantee the battery for 8 years with fast charging.
8 years is not long in the automotive sphere, but yes, I agree.
I'm not worried about 8 years' time. If those batteries will last 8 years under fast charging, I think I'll probably buy a new car.
I agree with what you're saying, but it really depends what you're trying to do in a large scope. I know the Moreland charger well. We have one of our Priuses based at the City of Moreland as well.
Yes, I know.
I think it's good that as a pilot project, I think, have you had Stuart Nesbitt come in and chat?
Not for a while. I think we might have at least got something.
You should get him back because Stu is awesome and very forward thinking. Really, like, we were absolutely proud to have one of our cars go there, and if we could get a second one in and there was demand for it, we would fully support it. Because the City of Moreland has done great work. Do they need a public DC fast? Yep, sure, because it's a competing technology. It's in some views a complementary technology. For your mission, it's certainly complementary. It's a competing investment when you take the next step. All right, so if you said to the City of Moreland, great, we can buy either another one of those or do something else, what do they do next?
get another fast charger at home.
Who votes get another fast charger?
Better off with 20 grand.
Yeah. Increase the access, various different
Well, access
points.
today, but it's not a problem at the moment.
Well, it's what you're building for. And these are really
Yeah, you
important
don't want
questions.
people that have to be queuing up for that one charger
Which one?
in Morland.
Well, they have slow chargers and the fast chargers.
I have two. Look, I think the important things is we've got some faces that are very engaged and some that are very bored. I was asked to come here to talk about charging. I'll get you there. The reality is home charging is pretty mature, it's pretty robust. If you make a few informed decisions about what you're doing, and I'd say 20 amps is about the limit for what you need at home, it's not really alternative. It's actually quite a mainstream decision. You can do it robustly, you can do it very easily. Public charging, how, why, where do the dollars get spent to enable the market? There are a lot of questions to ask. I'll get Dean first. 5 minutes, yep.
How much, you're talking about DC fast charging,
Sure.
what about DC slow charging, where, for instance, your big plug stuff to DC, that's the solar panel thing.
I doubt you'll see it, because DC basically involves touching the battery directly. AC allows, the paradigm that's there to have an onboard vehicle charger alleviates a whole bunch of safety concerns, and at a fundamentally lower current, the inherent risk is much slower too. And for the people that watch this afterwards, I should say, look, if you want to fast fill your car with petrol, and you weren't a Formula 1 team, so you didn't have, you know, a quick release and all that sort of jazz, yeah, you could do it quite quickly, but there's inherent risk as well. You know, a fuel bowser only fills so fast because there are vapors and there's splashback and there's all sorts of stuff. So the paradigm we have in the industry, which is you can do it via AC, there's a bunch of fairly universally agreed safeguards. I mean, there's some movement in standards bodies for what you can do, whether you vary the pilot signal, how you do, what information you pass along it, you know, all that jazz. But at a deeply fundamental level, there's a fairly safe paradigm. DC fast is only really required if you want to deal with the battery direct.
How much do you want to invest in infrastructure, given the battery technology? It's not going to come up with a breakthrough tomorrow and then make all your current. If you roll out too much of the current technology, you spend a lot of money, or waste a lot of money.
True.
There's an awful lot of research going into battery technology now, and you expect that's going to evolve and develop, and presumably fast charging is one of their aims as well. If it gets to a point where you can fast charge in a very short time, and then you've got this big infrastructure spare that's all trickle charge, so to speak. You sort of
No, I understand what you're saying exactly.
Enough to.
I understand what you're saying exactly. I'll give you two answers. The first is the diffusivity of usage modes. So, if you want to enable a displacement of purely internal combustion vehicles with either plug-in hybrid or full electrics, the rest of it. Yes, convenience and amenity is easier if you plan on not using your car in any other way than you used to. But if you're embracing a lower carbon lifestyle and you live near a park and ride, for argument's sake, and you're like, I could take my grid-connected car to the park and ride and I could catch the train to work and offset my carbon accordingly. You park there for 8 to 12 hours. Doesn't make a difference. Whether the car's charged in 10 seconds, whether the car's charged in 2 seconds or 5 hours, it doesn't make a difference. There will always be a market for slow charging. And it's not a bad thing. Slow is not evil. Slow is just how you use it. And even if you could charge a battery very, very quickly, a number of things have to happen. Our electricity grid would have to be a hell of a lot more responsive than it is. It would have to be a great deal more capacious. And if you thought that the automotive industry moves slowly, try dealing with the power industry. Right? That being said, if there's money in it, I'm sure they would. But we're talking about infrastructure that takes a long, long, long time to build. You could have a breakthrough tomorrow, but the infrastructure change would be decades. Right? But the second point to that, I'd argue, not for the sake of being a Toyota employee, but for the sake of being a scientist. Advantages in, or technological breakthroughs in fuel cells are happening a lot faster than they will in batteries. I'd say the glide path for a cheaper fuel cell vehicle per kilometre range, when we're talking longer range is likely to decrease faster in the near to mid-term than battery tech. That's again, and this again comes back to the same paradigm we were talking about. Once you've got the hydrogen, great. Getting it, difficult. Very, very, very difficult. We can do it a number of ways in Australia. There's a number of different ways that are amenable in other markets. But yes, there are no silver bullets. Education is the key. If you run with the baseline argument we'd like to run with is wheel-to-well CO2. You know, and if you run with that, open market, opportunity cost for opportunity cost, there are ways to abate it within each market space. The most important thing to teach people is there's choice, there are informed decisions at all things. I mean, charging is a very, very small part of this overall puzzle. How you charge, what charge you buy, what kind of car you buy, these are all important choices, but they're small things if what you really want to do, and I imagine most of you do because you're here for the ATA, not just necessarily, you know, electric car nuts, or you will be drag racing on a, you know, Tuesday night down at Calder or something like that. Tuesday, Wednesday, it's Wednesday. Saturday drags, fantastic. But if what you want to do is get your CO2 profile down, it's far more thought than how fast you charge or which charge you buy, all that sort of argument. So yes, there are advantages to fuel cell vehicles. There are disadvantages to fuel cell vehicles. There are advantages to EVs, otherwise, PEVs, whole deal. The most important thing is that we're having the discussion, isn't it? Question?
Maybe a round of networks there. I mean, basically, with long use, you're saying, depending on where people come off to load their cars, I mean, markets, the networks are trying to contend with all the solar stuff, how they're going to deal with the EV space, different load demand for those things. I mean,
same way they do normally, charge more than think about it now.
Yeah, that's quite off topic.
Yeah, it's a manageable problem. Fundamentally, the networks want to sell more electrons, and fundamentally, we want to give consumers a choice of where the energy they drive comes from. We'll reach an amenable solution.
Riccardo, you mentioned plug-in hybrids for a fair bit. I think they've been in the US market for a couple of years.
They have.
Not yet in Australia, in theory, next year, I think.
Can't talk, yeah.
I'd like to know why it has gone in the US, and what's the delay, to the extent you can give an answer. Even the official answer would be nice.
No, there's an official answer, which would be there's no market for it in Australia. Well, there's a limited market for it at the moment.
Compared to the US?
The US sold 12,000 of them last year, which is quite a lot. The question is...
How do they determine that there's no market here? I mean, we would buy one, but nobody's ever asked us.
At what price?
Oh, tricky that.
Isn't it? We have divisions of people that work on the at what price argument, so does every other vehicle manufacturer.
Thing that tells you the electric vehicle sales here. Why is an IMM currently so cheap, and why is a Leaf so cheap? It's a raw dealer paying an awful lot of money for it. You've got to sell it. Which means they're not selling well.
I would contend that in Australia we're lucky. We have some fairly progressive brands because it's a very hotly contested market. To sell cars in Australia, there are more brands per capita here than anywhere else in the world. So it's not an easy automotive market. What we lack compared to most markets, and this was part of the speech given for the guys who recognised the slides at the All Energy Conference, we actually lack a regulatory CO2 framework. So by 2015 there'll be 3 big markets that don't have a CO2 fleet, not target, but you must be under this or you're in, you know, a costed amount of, you're in a world of pain that you pay for. There'll be Russia, Indonesia and us. So the last federal government was tabling something called NACE, which would have been 190 grams CO2. So, you know, we sell Hiluxes, we sell whatever, but we also sell Yaris's and Priuses and Prius Cs, and the average would have to be that, and it would have to be a lower number in a number of years, and if you fall over it, you get a bill. If you fall under it, you're scot-free. It's happened in Europe, for argument's sake, and Toyota's quite competitive with the glide targets and whatnot. It doesn't exist in Australia. So if you have that sort of framework, and people talk about, oh, car parking spaces and this and that, forget all that. If you've got a CO2 framework that literally says it is cheaper to subsidise the price of this car than it is to fall over this emissions target, you'll see every manufacturer doing it. Eventually Australia will likely acquiesce to some sort of, or adopt some sort of regulatory framework, because the countries we're in business with, and the regional blocks we're in business with, have this. Even the United States has a target. and they're all pretty competitive. They're all between 20 and 25. We're all hitting around about sub 100 grams CO2 per K, and that's a tough target. Like our hybrid Camry's around 120. That's a damn good car. Like for actual energy efficiency, that's on it for a big car. Prius is 80, 90 odd, all that sort of stuff. But if you want to hit averages of sub 100, it's very hard to do without grid-connected vehicles. Very, very hard to do. Whether they're PEVs, whether they're EVs, you've got to have something in the back pocket. So you're seeing some interesting movements in Australia. Porsche has the Panamera hybrid. They didn't have to, but the model cycle for that car will be so many years, and if there's a change affected before they can get another car to market, that means 911 Turbo goes up in price a fair amount accordingly. So there are very many manufacturers who are looking to have something in the back pocket that if it needs to be subsidised to get the fleet number down, away you go. There's a strong argument that the Prius plug-in, like many others in America, falls under the same boat. I mean, Tesla's doing phenomenally off zero emissions vehicle credits in California. If you create an economy that requires grid-connected vehicles to sell vehicles equitably at all, it will happen. It requires a government commitment.
How do we get that?
Next 3 years.
This is what our group should be looking for.
How do they calculate the plug-in?
Sure.
Is it the emissions, the electricity coming into that grams per
Yes,
kilometre?
it's a combined figure. It is a combined figure. To the best of my knowledge, I'll admit my former manager, Riccardo, and just to illustrate the synergy between utilities in sustainable motoring and the vehicle manufacturers, Nick was an engineer at Holden in powertrain, ended up heading up the environment group in policy at Toyota, and he now works for AGL. All right, so Nick was responsible for doing a lot of this testing, and he can quite assure you, yes, it does get the number down a fair bit. There are some, I wouldn't say liberties taken, but if you have a PEV and you don't charge it at all, well, it's not going to get the stated number. But by the same token, if you're only doing short trips, then it's going to come under it. The car, this thing's a great example. The four that you see on road that are dressed up like this actually have full telemetry. So go out, rent it, drive it. Give me a call afterwards. I'll tell you how you went. I'll get the data a day later. All right. We don't know where you've been, but we do know how you accelerated and what kind of fuel you used and whatnot. And it's kind of interesting. On the book, they're around about 2.2, 2.3 odd litres per 100k. Most people are getting under 2 because their average trips are under 40 kilometres, and then it goes back and charges.
What happens to these people if they actually go into different weapons?
Yes, this is a Go-Get car share.
Okay.
So you sign up for Go-Get and you can, there's one at Moreland, there's 3 in the city. Yeah, there's one in South Bay. Yep. One of them doesn't have a charging pole yet, but the rest of them are pretty good. I was given the wind-up about 3 minutes before 5 minutes, and now we're here, and we've pole vaulted over it. Oh.
Just quickly, is it real that
Yes.
RM's going to use it?
Yes.
And what's the downside?
The downside is a lot of regulation. The efficiency is not that bad. It's over 90% for the systems I've seen paperwork for. So the efficiency is actually pretty good. You can end up doing some really funky stuff, like charging roads and intersections and all that sort of jazz. So it opens up the Pandora's box for a lot of good jazz. It really, really does.
And I think one of the things with trip hazards in public spaces, and I know Standards Australia was a concern about the plug-in lead, that induction charging, I think, for shopping centres and public spaces.
Absolutely, there are many advantages. At the moment, the hardware is expensive, which is part of it. But you can imagine there are, it's like saying inductive charging for a pacemaker or, some sort of medical implant is also very expensive but somewhat necessary. There are some usage modes that present corner cases if you do have a pacemaker.
When you say expensive, you're going to ballpark figure there.
The systems are still in pre-production to prototype, so we really couldn't tell you at this stage. There's a number of manufacturers that are working on communication standards for it at the moment, but there are demonstrated systems that actually work and work quite well. Really, really, really quite well. It's gone beyond prototype. Like we have.
You can get a 3 kilowatt system for an IMA, but you can't get the prices for them.
Look, you have. One thing we didn't touch on, that's single or 3-phase. Single. Is that grid single or three-phase? Yeah, it is, isn't it? It is three-phase. So this is a problem that we'd have to deal with. By the time inductive comes along, I think the glide path to market will be a lot smoother. There's some fairly advanced systems doing rounds at the moment. Toyota's in the thick of it. Bosch is playing with a few. Jump on Gizmag, you'll see a number of them that have been demonstrated and whatnot. We have, I know inductive charging is sexy and interesting and whatnot, but we have bigger problems in Australia. Like, do we adopt a single or a three-phase charger? You would have seen the i3, and the first thing we would have said is, aha, not a J1772. What are they up to?
Actually, it was really difficult to see it because
I
wasn't supposed to be.
Oh, neither were we. We were Toyota employees.
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't tell me much. I wasn't even allowed to sit in it. But yeah, got to see this best part.
All right. So the one that came round's got a Mechanical connector on it, and
it had a box.
yes, and it may or may not have it when it comes to production in Australia. You don't know, but we might be the only. We don't actually have a formal standard for this in Australia at the moment. So if you want to talk about low-hanging fruit that a group like yourselves could get on top of, push for a standard. So it's easy for manufacturers to come in. Ambiguity is awful when you bring mass production products to market. Ambiguity just is a barrier to market acceptance. Remove ambiguity. Australia should be a 1772 or a Type 3. Decided, done. That kind of thing.
I thought that was the decision, but 1772 was going to be the standard at one stage.
At one stage, yes.
Yeah, but now they've thought of the other ones.
Now there are a few. And if you go to Western Australia, Professor Thomas Broinell, some of you read his work. He's got a network that's it's based on Type 2. So it makes sense from an engineering point of view. We are a three-phase grid. What do? There's got to be a standard. Probably 1772 could work. Our car's a 1772.
I don't know how much that car costs, but if they can afford to put a dual system on an RMIT, surely they can afford to put a dual system on a Prius, which costs twice as much.
Machine they make money on.
Yeah, there's that, but we don't need it on a Prius. We have a very small battery. Really, we charge just fine. There's no need for Shademo or DC fast.
Well, Prius is running around Australia with extra batteries in them.
There are. I am aware. I doubt there's a need for DC fast. But look, the point is, we have some standard things to point out. Get a standard going. Campaign to your governments to offer rebates to people in new dwellings to at least do the pre-provisioning for EV charging. When you're building a house, it's like $50 a wiring and half an hour of someone's time. And you've got your knockoff points that make installing an EVSE, a few years down the road when you go that way, an absolute cinch. There's a lot we can do, and charging is the easiest place to start, because if we increase the number of installed bases, the barrier to getting into the market is that much easier. You can see a place to charge, your list has going on.
I'm sure we can continue the chat.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are totally drained at this point, but thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for Riccardo's wealth of knowledge and has as many questions as he has answers. Let's go and have tea and bickies and continue the conversation. Cheers. And bye-bye to the interwebs.